say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular upon spur, singing out, yeah, through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the
Welcome back to Muskies on Tap. I'm Fischer Smith. This is Jason Smith, and actually, we're guests here on the podcast. Let's talk some Muskies.
All right, thanks Fisher for that intro there. And now we're actually recording live from the boys' cabin. We have all three members here in the same place at the same time, first time ever. So let's introduce the others. I got myself, Gus Manty, and sitting right next to me, got Brian Eckel. Brian, how you doing? Cutting the order, usually go Max, but introducing Brian here first.
Well, apparently this is my first time in the recording studio. Having a great time here. Lovely drinks here. We got a full fridge for the 4th. I am sipping on a little Kiwi High Noon tonight. We'll go around the horn and share. We don't always do it like we should with being on tap. But yeah, Kiwi High Noon. You guys can hassle me for the seltzer. I'll take all the heat for that. But yeah, looking forward to a good weekend here. Get out on the boat with these guys. We'll have a full boat. Hopefully a couple days over this long weekend. Hopefully the beers won't get in the way of catching too much fish. So with that, I'll toss it over to Max here, sitting right next to me. What are you drinking there, Max? A little French in you?
Yeah, I got a little Stella going here. I was working on those APAs prior to this, so enjoying being with you fellas here live. Like Gus said, this is the first time we've all been together. Feels good. I think the mojo would be a little bit better on the pod if all three of us were in person more often. This is a good time. So hopefully this isn't the last time. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Tomorrow, not going to be doing much fishing. 4th of July, we got a little golf match going on with us three and another buddy of ours. Should be, well, hopefully, yeah, 2v2 scramble. Hopefully no friendships will be lost. I'm sure it'll be a good time. But yeah, we're going to get out on the water a little bit. I'll be up here for the full week after the 4th of July. So I know Gus and I are going to be hitting it hard. I get to sub in for our dad for Monday Night Muskie League. So I'm looking forward to that. Just excited to be out here, man. Last time I was up, the trees were bare. I was on Northern Wisconsin opener with you guys. So good to see it. Everything's filling out. Water temps are still cold, but heating up slowly but surely. Looking forward to a good weekend here. I think we got new moon on, I believe tomorrow, correct? Thursday when this comes out? Friday? Yeah. Either or. So, if you guys are coming up here, I think we should have a pretty good weekend of fishing. Friday looks a little bit sketchy with all that rain, but Saturday and Sunday look just fine. So with that said, we got a good interview for you guys here tonight. Fischer and Jason Smith were on, and we really enjoyed talking with them. Thought they brought up a lot of good points, just from tips, good stories, just some good dudes. So if you haven't checked out their YouTube channel, we can't recommend it enough. Some great content that they've been pushing out now for a few years. Shout out. And I think we were just blown away at about how young Fischer is and how kind of like, would you say, yeah, well versed or just like knows his stuff for being 15. I mean, Brian, what were you doing when you were 15 when you'd come up here for a weekend of fishing? I mean, what were we doing at that age?
I mean, I was just hucking bucktail, hucking bank. I still am, but 15, man, that's a flash in the past. Sophomore year of high school.
Your voice hadn't even dropped.
No, I was still a young spry guy. I think I was out on the golf course for 8 hours a day and doing well in school, but yeah, catching some muskie on the side. Yeah, Gus, where were you at 15?
Probably same thing. We were probably lashing it up at Reed Golf Course at Appleton, season passes, going out there every single day. Didn't have a care in the world each summer. Came up here in the weekends, caught some pike, maybe a couple muskies here and there. But yeah, one thing I forgot when we were in the interview, I mean, not to take anything away from Fischer, I think Trevor Barber was the youngest we've ever had in the podcast by like a year or two younger, but that was still impressive on how many fish that Fisher's caught and the amount of knowledge that he has at such a young age. It's pretty incredible. Looking for his 200th fish. Potentially, maybe he's probably already caught it by the time 200th over 30 inches for Muskies Inc. Probably already got it by the time this comes out because we recorded it a few, 5 days before this came out. This is the night before. This is July 3rd right now.
So with that being said, I mean, with the people coming up here for the weekend, I'm sure there's a lot of, if you're listening to this, you're a stick, you're a stud, you're a seasoned muskie angler. I'm sure you know what you're doing, but for those that are coming up here that don't, get out as much as they'd like to or whatever, they take some time off of work for the 4th of July. They're coming up here to catch some fish, Gus. What have you been seeing out on the water as of late? I know the bite was a little bit slow this last week, but it sounds like it's kind of starting to pick up.
Yeah, I would definitely look forward to a pretty darn good bite here with the new moon. The temps are definitely still cold. I mean, I think after the 2 days of warmth we got here, we might see some good solid temps, maybe around 70 or so. That's what I would kind of expect over the weekend. The rain's gonna totally knock that away. I don't think it's gonna be overly windy. At least that I saw it was windy today, but the fish didn't seem to mind the wind. I think they actually preferred the sun. I think they want the warm up. They want a little bit warmer temps. Fish have been eating fairly consistently, actually, but we've been getting a lot of nipping fish. We've lost countless fish, too many to count. It's been really, really tough that end of June there. A lot of fish were just kind of nipping at the back of bucktails. You'd set the hook, you'd still feel the blades churning, and then crank down a few times, maybe bring them close to the boat, and then boom, they pop off because you can see the whole bucktail in their mouth, and they're all beak hooked and barely hooked in the lips or skin hooked. And but I think that will kind of turn around with the warmer temps. The rubber bite should definitely pick up, especially when it's windy. Probably prefer rubber over blades. Topwater has been quiet. Surprisingly enough, jerkbaits have been pretty quiet, raising a couple fish on them. I really thought some dive and rise were going to be the tickets on a few of those cold snaps lately. Didn't seem to be the case. Still seem to be blades, specifically small single blades, and not really burning them in yet. It seems like the pike want it burned in, but the muskies don't. So I would expect something similar over the weekend, but I wouldn't be afraid to go big. I know we've been getting some pretty luck in my boat with smaller blades and some smaller rubber like mid deuces, but I think there could be some opportunities with some larger presentations with the new moon, slightly warmer waters than what it kind of has been, and I think the bite should be really good. All the fish are setting up right where they should be. Summer peak stuff, weed edges, wind-blown weeds. Weeds are hitting kind of their peak. I've been hitting a lot of shallow stained waters, and fish are biting. the moon phases are incredible. That's when pretty much all of the bites have been coming, a few out of moon, and it's good. Summer fishing, true summer fishing is around the corner. It's here, but the temps aren't really saying it yet.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to get out. I mean, I know this weekend we probably won't be doing our classic musky, benders per se. I've seen a few buddies of ours heading up for some trips, whether it be Canada, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, doing some benders. So if you're listening to this on your way up to one of those, we wish you the best of luck. We're hoping to get one of those on the calendar here late July or sometime in August. But for those of you, that are getting out this weekend that aren't, musky fishing a bunch, just make sure you got all the right equipment, good size net, get those hook cutters out, make sure you have the right release tools. If you're unsure on what those are, I know majority of our listeners are probably very, very keen to what those tools are, but if you're not, feel free to DM Muskies on Tap or Gus's Instagram, and just ask. It's always better to be prepared with this stuff, even if you're going out and just saying, well, we're targeting pike, but maybe we'll get a muskie. Still worth it to have that right equipment in, and once you kind of get the bug and catch that muskie, you're gonna want to have all that equipment anyway, so you might as well just get it on the front end. But yeah, no, it should be a great weekend. What we will get out a little bit, I think mostly mornings. Brian brought his fly rod, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out for him. Might do a little bit of early morning fishing, a little bit of night fishing, and then come Sunday, hopefully Brian, Gus, and I will be able to get out on the boat and put some serious effort in on I think we're going to go a little trophy hunting on Sunday is the goal right now. So that should be fun. Certainly been a slow start to the season for me. So I'm hoping that turns around this weekend.
Yeah, like Max said, trophy hunting a little bit on Sunday. It won't be the longest time on the water for us, but we're going to be going after some big fish. And I'm sure, as some of you have seen, there was a giant recently caught here in northern Wisconsin, a 54, which is uncharted territory for Wisconsin. That's fairly normal for the Minnesota guys, but for here it's unheard of. So put some hope into us and opened our eyes a little bit as to what's still out there. So yeah, we're gonna tackle some big water. Hopefully tackle some big water and get after, hopefully a giant, the few that are still swimming around up here. And shout out to Dylan Peck. He was the angler who caught that 54, fish of a lifetime. Only downhill from here, pal. I mean, you can't catch one bigger in the Northwoods. So hats off to you. Shout out. Incredible fish.
Yeah, I've been seeing some big fish fall over the past week or so. So I know our buddy Taylor Flannery stuck a really nice one this last week, and I think it's a time frame that we've talked about, this end of June, early July, seems to be, for whatever reason, just a big fish time. So, I mean, all systems go. Get excited if you're out on the water. I think now is a good time to have that shot at a true Northwoods giant. So, best of luck to everyone getting out on the water this weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the 4th of July. With that all said, let's dial up the interview with Jason and Fisher Smith.
All right, here on the end of the line, we got Fisher and Jason Smith from Smith's Fishing Outdoors. How are you both doing tonight?
Great. Glad to talk some muskies.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I see you got yourselves in the garage with all the rods and reels and baits behind you, all the stuff you need to look at for inspiration. You got some sitting right there? Oh, yeah. That's a good looking deucer right there.
Sure is. Chippewa perch.
Chippewa perch. Is that do they make that anymore?
It's
never been made.
It's never been made. It's our color for Smith's Fishing Outdoors. It's coming out in
mid-July.
Yeah, mid to late July. So
it's exciting. On Chaos or what?
Yeah, this is one that we've caught. I've repaired it. I've probably caught 10 fish on this one deucer.
That's awesome.
I
love that.
Believe it. That's a good looking color right there.
If it's gold, the muskies will fold, as they say.
We caught fish in Green Bay with it. We caught fish in northeast Wisconsin and northwest Wisconsin, Minnesota. It catches fish. That gold always works.
Yeah, that's
True
awesome.
that.
And speaking of where, maybe we'll also kind of ask for a background here too, but where are you guys located out of?
Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. So just Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We're about 10, 15 minutes north. So
Nice. Awesome. And of course, Jason, you've been musky fishing a long time. I don't know if, before Fisher talks about how, or maybe how you got Fisher into musky fishing, maybe just obviously came naturally, but maybe want to talk about the origins there for how you got into the whole musky game.
Yeah, I mistakenly caught one in 1989, and that got me hooked.
Yeah.
You know, just graduated high school, and all of a sudden it's like, I got a muskie, and this was fun. Went through college. I went to UW Stevens Point and everything. Um, ended up, I ended up getting a job in Milwaukee, and then fished Pewaukee Lake back in its heyday. Just had a ball. We were catching just ungodly amount of muskies every year, and I started guiding them in, about 93 or so and 95. And guided till 2003. Then needed to raise my kids. And, obviously we all run through that in life. And my daughter was 4, and she didn't want to be in the Waukesha public school system. So we moved to Chippewa Falls, and then I wanted to really learn the lakes in this area before I ever guided it. So it was 2010, 12 before I went back to guiding right in there.
about when I caught my first muskie.
You were born in 2008. You were 4 years old. Yeah, about the same. You were 3 when you caught your first. So,
Young lad.
Gus, how about that here in an 08 birth year?
Oh,
That's
yeah. Is it the youngest guest we've ever had, I think?
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? Yeah.
15 years old, and he almost got his milestone this weekend. He still can't. He still can't reach it. How many muskies are you trying to reach right now?
200 over 30, and I'm at 199.
Gotta get that 200th.
So close.
Going to Lake X for your 200th, or going to a big somewhere, destinational. Don't know.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go fishing.
Yeah, just take it however it comes. So you said you're 15 years old?
Yep.
So you're studying to get your license and everything right now?
I got my we were fishing this weekend, and I drove 3 hours north.
Awesome.
This is finally more enjoyable now. I made a comment in the car. It's like, now I can sit in the passenger seat and jabber away, and he jabbers away. When it used to be, I would try to talk to him while I drove, and he would just sleep. So kind of
yeah, this is going to open up a lot of doors now. You're going to have a lot more responsibilities. Your dad's going to have you backing in the boat, driving to all these different lakes. It's going to be great.
He's learning how to be back in my driveway, back to boat in the garage. He's learning.
We spent like an hour in the high school parking lot, put up some cones, and I just tried different angles back in the boat into it.
Nice.
I only hit the pond once.
That's pretty good. You're a natural. You're a natural. So, you said you caught your first muskie. I can't remember even what the year it was, but how old were you when that all went down?
3 years old.
Okay. So you were a little bit ahead of the curve from most 3-year-olds as far as what they were doing for, activities. And
the trick at that age, because obviously at 3 you can't cast very well,
Sure.
Understandably.
I don't know how tall a 3-year-old is, but
so I got creative with my other son's help, and we kept the rod in the rod holder, and we were trolling. And as soon as it ripped, I dropped the kicker motor down to 0.1, 0.2 to keep the tension on. And he sat there with 2 hands and reeled it to the rod tip from the center rod holder in the middle of the boat.
Yeah.
And just broke it right in the net. He got his first one.
So what was that What was that experience like as a dad watching your 3-year-old haul in a muskie?
Well, I think we tried 5 or 6 times before we finally got one in the net, but
I couldn't have told you that we tried 5 or 6 times. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I think my earliest memory at 30 years old at this point in time in my life is like maybe 14.
Yeah.
Then we had some years where 4 or 5 years old, where he's learning to cast and all that, and like 4 years old, I would cast the bait out.
I remember
He would
that
sit
stuff.
like right between my legs and then just reel it all in, and then hand the rod back to me, and I cast it again. And he'd work on his topwater speed and everything else like that. And he'd catch a couple fish a year back then doing that, and that was fun. And
Probably lose a couple too.
the one key that I say is you really want kids to really enjoy musky fishing. Don't just hand them the rod. Make them earn it and lose it and learn from it, just like we do adults. And they appreciate it and always want to come back for more.
From like, I'd say my side of things, when I was growing up, we always either say we were trolling and we caught a pike or something. We'd throw a pike in the live well, and I'd just sit there and play with it and be occupied for a long time. Or just play with a crankbait in the live well, or for casting, and it gets to you're just fish the peak major and you go catch some bass after. Just have fun. I think that's probably the biggest part.
Put some Hot Wheels in the boat so they
Yeah.
can wheel them around.
Yeah.
Smart. So let's go through the progression here then, because this is interesting. So you caught your first muskie at 3. I guess what would be the next milestone? Like, when do you think you like successfully casted and reeled in your first muskie under your own kind of power?
5 or 6, right in there.
5.
Jesus.
That's wild.
And then when did you start ripping rubber? Like 7?
Really?
Yeah. I used to rip, like, I don't know if they're down there.
Mid-Medusas.
Mid-Medusas and small bulldogs.
Actually, mid-Medusa is pretty easy for a kid because they could just work a rod, pump it back, and all of a sudden the rod starts bending. It's actually a pretty easy concept for a kid.
There's a fish that still haunts me to this day of my favorite Medusa. I was ripping it, and that was probably like, I don't know if I was 6, and I caught a small one, and all of a sudden I set the hook, and there was a 46-incher comes out of the water. My leader breaks.
Oh
And
no.
I was
Oh, no.
I know I cried for a little bit after that one.
We were actually talking about that on the way back from Saturday's trip, and it was like, he's been trying here. Last year he ended up a few fish shy of his goal of 200, and he's like, now we're down to 1, and I can't get it. The only muskie he caught this weekend was 31 3/4. We've got him one a little bit closer, but it wasn't much of a muskie, a 31 3/4.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
but he's like, how many did I lose over the years? I could have had this done long ago. He's like, but we can all think back to memories,
Yeah, that's certainly the name of the game, right? So, okay, so you're ripping rubber at 7. You caught your own muskie under your own power at 5. I guess when for you was it just like all muskies? I mean, because like I think when I think back to like Gus and I's childhood, we grew up fishing perch, walleye, and then really like our muskie game kind of developed from like pike fishing. We would go out with like spoons and little mini spinner baits, and that's kind of how we like transitioned into muskie. But it sounds like for you, I mean, at 5, 6, 7 years old, we're not thinking about muskies. So.
In the spring, we mixed in, like, before muskie season, we always went crappie fishing and caught a whole bunch of crappies, and I think that was probably fun. And then after that, I was like, I want to catch big fish.
Sure.
And the one thing that I concentrated on, as I guide and been pretty dialed in on the area, I could sit there and go, okay, I think we can move one off this hump. We get there right at moonrise. So we might bass fish the pads for a while with frogs and get a lot of action, and then wait till that 2 o'clock window, get that muskie or get a good shot at them, a lot of that encouraged his excitement.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would believe that. Yeah, bringing in waves of like how much musky fishing, because I would assume at a young age you're not putting them through those like 14, 15-hour days or nothing. That's
Don't want to do
those,
that. No, it's a
no, those,
gradual progression.
yeah.
You were 9 before you really were doing like 12-hour days.
Probably like the first time I went on Green Bay was probably the longest day.
It's a Lake of the Woods for
Oh,
7-day
yeah,
trip
that
when
was
you were
fun.
9. Yeah.
Wow. I was just about to ask, what was your first like big trip outside of your county, I guess, or your couple counties in Wisconsin?
The Woods or Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think it was Green because we were trying to get my first 40-incher. I think I was 9, and we went over in October to troll Green Bay, and I caught like a 42 or 40 and like a 35. But I think that was probably the first big trip.
Mhm.
Okay. So then when did like the videography and the YouTube come into play then?
So long time ago, I don't know if you guys ever watched the video. We fished with Lee and Robbie.
You were 9 then.
Oh yeah, I was 9, and Lee pulled us aside after we got done the video. He's like, "You guys should do YouTube." And we didn't do it right away. We thought about it, and then when we went to Canada after the second time, we kind of brought the camera with. We bought a camera from Mike Keys, and we brought a camera with. We filmed a little bit, and we weren't that serious yet. I'd say probably 2019, 2020 was when we really were like, we could do this. And it's just kind of poof, ideas just came plowing in, and we realized that we can fish in our league nights. We can get videos done, and we could go on trips and get experiences that we wouldn't have gotten before.
And we got some help, friends of ours like Brian Skate from Angling Anarchy, kind of helped lead the way and said we should do this or that. Lee and Robbie from Today's Angler were doing the same thing. And, you always need advice from other people in it. And I was trying to slow my guide service down. I got diabetes in like 1920. So it was a perfect time for the switch over to doing YouTube. And it was either that or quit altogether. But he was so excited in the musky fishing, I wanted to keep something going.
Sure.
And like, this is your channel, this is your baby. I will support you, and that's kind of what we've done. And I've had some major health problems, but we've made it work. This spring I had open heart surgery here on May 1st, and feeling good now. But we're gonna get another 25 years of musky fishing in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You got a new motor now. You're ready to go.
He just got fixed up to be a good net man now.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's an important job.
I actually almost had to net a fish for him the other night, but just barely nipped it and popped off. I got down, I lifted the net up, and I was like, oh, I seen the fish waking behind the top water.
Yep.
So Jason, are you still in search of that post-op muskie, that first post-op muskie?
Yeah, no post-op. The doctor would probably not even like me to do it. We were out for like an hour and a half the other night, and all of a sudden, I had one smack of topwater bait, but it's all right. I'm in no hurry. I was using a little softer rod because more wrist snapping baits right now than heavy shoulder. I ain't gonna.
He's using like a 710 tactical strike.
Yeah, so not my overall favorite topwater rod.
No, my favorite topwater rod's a 9.6 SWAT.
9.6. Yeah, let's go.
I like that. Not being able to pick up line because usually when they hit topwater, if you're throwing fast topwater, they're gonna push it forward. So you need that little bit extra to pick up that line and load the rod better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not to mention you can throw it a country mile.
Oh, you can.
Oh my God. Would you use a high gear or like a low gear with the topwater like that?
Okay, it's over here. But I use the high gear 300 PC Fun.
Okay.
So it can suck when you're throwing slower topwaters, but
you just adjust the speed.
You just adjust.
Yeah. But then the long rod, and what like weight is that one again exactly for the Chaos rod? Because I know that probably has a lot more bend in the rod, which is probably why you use that.
3 to 10 ounces.
3 to 10 ounces. Perfect. Yeah, because you don't want to pull hooks, but you also need power to set the
Oh
hook.
no, we don't set the hook. We basically are just loading the rod heavy,
Yeah.
keeping pressure. Because a lot of times on top water, they're setting the hooks themselves.
Yeah, especially if they actually eat it well and they boil and they just eat it before you can even
Yeah.
see their fins at it. So those are the best
I've
eats.
always
And
told just let them eat it, take it under, and just load into them. That's
Wait till you feel them.
Wait till you feel them. So he's been
Yeah.
real good. He's pretty steady on 20 or 30 yard fish pushing water. He can hold his ground pretty good and not get nervous.
It's got to be one of the coolest things. But
It's hard though at the beginning, like those first few times when you start throwing top waters and you see that fish start pushing the back of the bait. I mean, I've set a top water 30 feet back to the boat before, you know,
Yeah.
thinking that the fish ate, and next thing you know, the top water is coming hurling at you and you got a duck.
Yep. Oh, we've had many well, Fisher, next time let's try to do this next. So it's trial and error with musky fishing.
There might be a little bicker back, but I'll take it. I'll take the information sometimes.
Yeah. It's and I'm not perfect myself, but we all learn by time on the water, and that really helps you get that. And one thing that Fisher has is a lot of time. I've got him out there a lot. We thinking about it, he's got 12 years of musky fishing experience at 15 years old. So it's been okay. So
Yeah. With all that knowledge, I was gonna ask about like a YouTube thing, but since we're on the topic of top waters, that was a big topic I actually was gonna maybe ask about and go through some tips. Let's maybe start with prop style, just like the most common top water you can think of. Most people have it in their box. A lot of people throw it if they think about top water. When is it your favorite time to throw a top water like that, and kind of why?
I mean, it depends. Okay, so if I mean, it depends on what time of year and what the water's like. If it's wavy or if it's calm, water temperature can make a big difference. If it's 61, probably my favorite. And if we're talking about that, probably everybody's got to have a top raider.
That's a
Great
solid
bait.
choice.
I've caught plenty of fish on top raiders, and if the water gets a little warmer and the fish are moving a little faster, chasing bucktails, then say like a little sister or big mama or something like that will work too.
There you go.
One thing I've always taught him is the sound is important, but what else is more important?
Speed makes a big difference.
So say you're throwing a top water and you are picking a speed, just call it like a moderate retrieve speed, and you go, I don't know, an hour with no action. Are you different top water? Are you changing speed, or is it kind of just like an instinct, like they should be eating top water today or tonight or this morning? I'm going to stick with it, but change something up.
Musky fishermen always look at, okay, I fished this spot last year, 4 years ago. I caught a fish on this bait. It's kind of like, oh, I know they're going to eat this bait. They might or might not. What speed was I using then? Or what was the water temp? Because if the water temp was too cold or too warm, then you might be going too fast or too slow. So I like to play it around maybe for another 15, 30 minutes, depends. And if we're not seeing fish on side imaging or bait fish, then I might throw away the top water completely and just go rip rubber or something.
So speaking of, we'll just kind of hang on this top water topic for a little bit longer. So say you're under good conditions, you're throwing the top water, and I think an aspect of the top water that I think is challenging for some people, I know that I've struggled with it myself in the past, is you talked about, fish following in for 25, 30 feet, and you obviously waiting to feel them before you set the hook. But say they come into the 8. Do you guys do any specific maneuvers when you get them both side on top water? I know there's kind of I think a lot of people have different ways that they go about it. So I'm curious to kind of hear when you guys get fish in the 8 on top water, what you do. What's your plan?
I mean, a lot of people take the bait underwater, and sometimes we'll do that. It depends. If the bait's like a faster bait, I'm gonna put it underwater most likely. But if it's a slower bait, let's say like a flap tail or a hog wobbler or something, I'm gonna run it slowly. And I've caught, I don't know, I think I've caught a couple of pretty nice fish. I remember my PB one time, 47 inch. I caught it on a L turn on a hog wobbler, and
wow.
Just I think it depends on the speed of the bait, whether I'm gonna go underwater just for a little bit, but I'm still popping it up on the corners to make sure it still pops a little bit.
Now that go back to that it was like the last league night of 2018, and we could use a really good fish in league, and he actually caught more than me. I mean, I put him in the bow all the time, but caught more than me in the league season. But we needed one more, and he sticks a 47.
Nice.
I think league ended at, I think it was like 9:30 then, and it was 9:10, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we came back that week. You actually moved that fish on, I think, like a big mama or something. And it was waking. We knew exactly where she was, and we flipped around, came back at dark, and she was there, and I could barely see her wake behind me. And I came around the L turn. She actually disappeared, and I'm like, no. Came around the L turn, and she just came up and crushed it. That was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, because I know some people have I mean, I've been taught this by a few, like you start kind of swaying the rod a little bit maybe to kind of get but you have to be careful of like watching your speeds and stuff, and because if you sway and keep the same speed, you might really kick up that top water a little bit too fast. Do you ever do that move at all?
I don't like to speed up. I really don't. I feel them most of the time that if one's coming and you start to speed up, it seems like they back off. And just everything consistent is best. That's been my like a 9.6 rod, like I got Fisher using on top water and a lot of things, and I've caught plenty on a 10-foot rod. I mean, I like keeping it out away from the boat, coming into the L, my L turn being 6 feet out from the boat. I mean, really,
that 10-foot rod really makes it
a big difference. I caught one on a flap tail walking around the back of my Merc Optimax, and I caught I caught one last year in the league doing that too. Getting that distance out, and they don't get spooked by the boat or doing whatever. Long rods on top water is really key. I'm really learning that.
I think that's great advice, because it's something that I definitely have implemented now into my topwater game, is a little more consistency. Because I remember, Gus, I don't know if you remember this at all, but it was a few years ago, and I was relatively new with flap tails at that point in time, and I had just listened to this I don't know if it was a video or I read something on Musky Hunter Mag, or I don't know where I read it, but I remember if you have a fish following for a great amount of distance, when it gets about 5-6 feet out, fire up that top water and submerge it and go into your 8. I read it somewhere, So anyways, we go out, and I saw this really nice fish coming in on flap tails. I'm just creeping it, and the fish is just staying right behind it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try this maneuver. And about 6 feet out, I submerged the flap tail and I fired it up, and that fish just went, see ya, and took off the other way. And I looked at Gus. I was like, oh, that didn't work very well. He's like, yeah, we never saw that fish again the rest of the day. And I'm like, I think we just gave away our position a little bit there. He's probably like, this dumbass, what is he doing? So now I'm much more conscious of that when I'm pulling a flap tail, like not to really try to spook them in any manner and just wait for them to fire up on it.
Yeah, keeping things consistent and go wide as possible. Even just walking it down the boat. That is, I mean, trying not to make as much corners you have to.
That, or a lot of times I won't do figure 8s. I'll do ovals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I feel like figure 8 would be pretty tough with a 10-footer if you're keeping it on the water. I know that's what people have struggled with. They asked me, it's like, what do you do with the top water? Because you're always getting scrunched up, right in front of yourself.
Yeah, God forbid they eat there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the YouTube channel. So we were touching on it. You got it started. Kind of just said, all right, we're just diving into this. Obviously you guys got a little bit of help from some really great guys. Brian, sounds like Mike was a little bit part of it. But when you put out that first video, I mean, what kind of was that like, putting your fishing out into the ether, into the internet? Was it weird at all, or just kind of like, whatever, let's just see what happens?
Just cool.
Yeah.
It was cool to be able to look back, show my friends, hey, look at this fish I caught, and eventually they started showing their parents, and everything just started growing.
It's been interesting. The more videos we we're probably, I don't know what, 400 now or something we got in there, but
I can't count that high.
We try to do one a week. That's our goal. And but to watch him, get people commenting in the comments, watching him grow up, hearing his voice change through the years. And
yeah, I remember some of the early ones.
Yeah, about I was 7th grade or something like that.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine in 7th, 8th grade having a camera in my face. Like, braces would be breaking the screen. It would be a bad scene.
Now I'm thinking about it. I shave like twice a week.
Oh my God.
That's good. It's good. You got to keep the appearance up. No, I mean, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys definitely been really consistent.
Let's just talk like that and do an intro like right now. Just quick little intro.
Well,
ooh, on the spot.
Oh, we're doing an intro right here?
Go ahead.
Oh,
you always do.
Kind of pressure now.
Sweet.
Look at
Let's
that.
do it.
That's
look at that.
Pro right there.
There we go.
Tabs and Tackle will appreciate the shout out too, I'm sure.
They definitely will. That's awesome.
You still got caps in the hand. Gloves.
Yeah.
True.
We had those guys on a while back. They're awesome. Good people.
Oh yeah.
All right. Yeah. So go ahead, Gus. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna kind of bring up with the YouTube channel, since it's been a while. You said I'm looking at the homes. You're approaching 400 videos. That's incredible. That'll be a really, really big milestone. And obviously you got another one coming up with your 200th musky over 30. Yep. And maybe go back to, what are some of your like favorite early videos, and maybe some of the places you went to that you really had a blast shooting, like the first places.
Phone for this.
Yeah, and that's all right. Yeah, I do the same with pictures sometimes. They always help jog my memory, but I'm just curious on maybe where, like, maybe there was a point in starting the YouTube, because obviously you said you kind of started it, putting a couple out, I'm sure, but then it probably took off. There's probably a point where it really felt it's going somewhere.
I mean, we did probably our best first video was, we did a little tip video in Canada about how to tune a suic. Mm-hmm. And that one got, that one's probably, I can find it here. It's 9.4K, and we're like, okay.
That was just a simple one where Fisher, you were like 9 then, and I handed him a suic in a box, and he opened it up, bent it, talked about bending it, casted it out, and it just boom, walked perfectly. You couldn't have got it to walk any better right out of the gate. Man, it was awesome.
That was really cool. And then we started, I think, 4 years ago, we were chasing fish in Green Bay, and every time we hit that 1K mark, I think it was kind of a milestone for us then, because we, you don't have that many subscribers. 4 Fish Musky Day, that one was probably one of my favorite videos that we filmed, because we caught 4 muskies and all rip and rubber.
Nice.
Your first 50?
My first 50. That was probably the most memorable video that we filmed.
I remember where was that at? How'd that go down?
It was in Minnesota. I can't say the lake, but
can't say the name.
That's all right.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
But
I remember it ate a what bucktail? Big bite bucktail.
Trilogy.
That trilogy.
Yep.
Ate it about 3 feet from the boat, and Matt Ross was with us from.
I looked in front of me and I watched that head just come up and go. And
Snap.
I did not get him hooked. I'm gonna be honest, I was small. And I still am pretty small. I didn't get him hooked that well. The bait came out in the net. It was a great net job, Dad.
Yeah. It's one of those where you see the size fish, it turned, and I think I netted it in like 4 seconds.
Perfect.
Before
It
he
was
could
cool.
even make a run.
Yeah. That one was 50 and a half.
And obviously the one I got, that's like 2 years ago now.
2 years.
2 years ago now, I got that 53.
Okay.
Nice. What'd you get that one on?
Is that another Minnesota fish?
I got that one on
Red October too.
it's in the box.
Muskies don't like tubes.
Yeah.
On
those
an
baits-
orange and gold tube.
I like that color.
It was
That sounds perfect.
first time I ever threw the thing, and that fish was we knew that fish was there because we've been there a couple weeks before, and we moved it a couple times, and we didn't know, but we kind of knew that he might have been there. And
Sure.
we stopped, started fishing, and I see one porpoise, and I'm like, I was throwing back there is the what's it called? Yeah, the umbrella rig. So I had 3 swim baits. I seen a porpoise, I casted to it, blazed it in front of his face, and he started whipping behind it about as fast as he could go. And then as soon as he got to the boat, he slowed off and just kind of coasted by. And then we redid
I
this.
looked down at the exact same. It was fun because I always like to try to judge fish. It's just kind of a game I have. I go, that was 53. I hit the nail on the head.
Nice.
And then we refished it. He was throwing
Poseidon.
I can't remember if it's Poseidon or a Husky Deusa, one of the two. And he did probably 2 or 3 eighths because we just wanted to make sure we could get that fish. Pulled his bait out of the water, and I look behind and I see the fish just rise up right behind it. I was like,
Oh no.
So I could have been the one to catch it.
yeah. And then we redid the spot. We're like, okay, last time we're gonna go hit something different after this. Because that was 15 minutes after peak. And I was ripping that tube, and I casted. There's a lot of stumps in this spot. Casted, rip, and I just got stopped. And I was like, got one. Nope, snag. Nope, it's a fish. and we were in my John boat, first fish we ever caught in the John boat. And
now here's the interesting. We just bought that John boat. We hadn't built a deck on it. You know what? A 14-foot Alumacraft John boat, they literally got that 2-foot lip in the front. He's standing on that.
Oh,
The 53-incher.
Moving the boat for sure. With
oh,
that.
the whole boat moved over there. And I'm like, it's big, it's her. And then she came about 10 feet from the boat, tail walking right in front. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's the coolest thing ever. And then she just got right next to the boat. And actually, she just glided right into the net. It was beautiful. And then we got into that. It was first fish. We're like, what do we do with this thing?
We'd never caught
What
a
are we
musky in
gonna
the John
do?
boat yet. We have bunk board and all that. Obviously,
We had to stack tackle boxes to make it even.
The bunk board to try to get that flat,
oh
between
my
the
God.
John boat seats. And
I would assume that muskie is a true actual. You can see the head on one side of the boat and the tail on the other because of your John boat, probably. Those tails of
4
big
inches got
fish.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's an older model John boat. It's like I think the 1457 from the both gunnels to gunnel in the middle. So
Wow.
We've caught a lot more fish in that John boat, and when the big boat's down, it's really kind of comes in handy. So
fishing rivers, it's a blast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd imagine. I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about getting something like that nature just to have another boat in the arsenal to do stuff like that.
I got a 9.9 on it, and I think keeping it lightweight so you can get in. I mean, we push it into lakes and rivers where the 13-inch tires, we only get half the tire wet. and we can still
Okay.
get it where we need to go.
It's a tilt trailer too. We don't use it often. I think we've only had to use it like one time, but the boat's light enough where I just get there, and not meaning to pat my own chest, but I'm pretty strong. I just pushed it off, and they were good to go.
Well, you're a wrestler. You got that you know,
Gotta have
foundation.
Lower
Gotta have a
body.
little.
Yeah.
You got yeah. No, Gus and I get that. We're both hockey players. You know, you gotta have that that lower body activated.
Just around that little puck.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine taking a John boat over to the Minnesota waters, but that's a hell of a story, catching a 53 out of a John boat and having a stack freaking tackle boxes to measure the damn thing. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, cat out of bag. It was the St. Louis River, so
Okay, there you go.
River, I'm sorry. So we were kind of getting into some odd backwater stuff. So
Cool.
thank
Well,
Christ.
so that actually leads me into my next question. So you guys obviously out of Chippewa Falls, you know,
Yeah.
you're in this league. What's the muskie scene like over there? I mean, I'm not too far away from you guys in the cities. Gus went to UW Eau Claire for after he transferred out of Bozeman, and so we're familiar with the area. I mean, how's the league? How's the area as far as kind of the muskie culture?
There's a lot of musky lakes. I think we have
Mhm.
8. Is it 18? Or is it 19?
18 within
18.
40 miles.
18 within 40 miles plus. So
Okay.
That's
Nice.
quite a few to get to.
there's a couple of them where it's like you might see one, and they're
Okay.
just not a whole lot of numbers. But we have our favorites, and a lot, obviously different years. Like this is a really rainy year, and there's some lakes where we probably won't even fish this year just because of that.
Sure. And how big is that league you guys are in? I mean, how long have you guys been doing that for? It sounds pretty fun.
We actually took a break this year, so we're not in the league this year, but it's like 35 teams.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bunch. Is it just one boat per team or a couple boats per team?
One boat per
One
team.
boat per team. Everybody's starts so Saturday to Sunday night. You can fish 5 to 10 in the morning or 5 to 10 at night. You pick your one window for the week. It doesn't have to be on the same day as everybody else. So basically, you could go to a different lake. There might be 4 other league boats fishing that night, but you won't see them. So
nobody's tripping over each other, which is, you know, the way we kind of developed it out. It's a lot of fun with some good people in it, and we don't have crazy prizes in it. It's mostly fun. Make sure you can get out.
you get a pretty cool looking plaque, though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
But,
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, of course. That's
We
it.
got
All
a t-shirt
hardware.
time. We won it.
We won it in 18, won it in 21.
We got second last year.
Yeah.
You guys are on it.
Oh yeah.
But
So
if you look at
go ahead.
strategy. You go, okay, Thursday night, we got some weather coming in.
I don't have wrestling practice.
There's a moonrise at this, and Fisher doesn't have wrestling practice, so we can go.
That
works perfect.
flexibility, I'm sure, is nice, but it also probably makes it a little bit more I got a little more thought provoking. Like, all right, what night this week can we go get a bite?
Oh, and here's the other thing is you know, we keep track of, you know, what you catch during the 14 nights of the 14 weeks of the league. Your best 5 nights count.
Oh, interesting.
You could skip, be sick or done something, go on a trip to
Doesn't
Lake of
matter.
the Woods and come back and really, you know, you're just losing a night. But your best 5 over the season count. So the strategy tends to be you want to double and triple on those 5 nights.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you win league.
The last time we won, we tripled one time and doubled every other night.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a bunch.
Gotcha.
That'll
And you
definitely
gotta
get it done.
have your size, too.
Yeah, obviously. They have to be over 34 to count. So
And then just
So is
basic
that-
points, like a point every quarter inch after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So is that 47 you caught? Was that the league winner that night?
that one basically won us because I think we were really tight in score, and it just kind of made sure
We
that
passed another team by like 5 points. So.
Yeah.
Last year we got second, and we added it up, and it was like all we needed to do was one night triple when we caught a 35-incher. And how
Yeah.
many 35
We
inches
looked-
did we lose during
We
the
looked
season?
at. I was looking back at film, and I was like, I really lost that 38-incher right by the boat during league, and I was like, that's nice.
So I know it seems pretty, you know, obviously there's not big money or anything involved, but do you guys like the competitive aspect a little bit of the
It's
league
fun.
stuff?
I think the best part of it is you got to go musky fishing.
Sure.
You got to get out in the week.
It's, you know, we do a $50 entry fee. If anybody gets a 45-incher on a league night, you get put in a drawing, and we actually give out a replica at the end out of the
cool.
people that are in the drawing too. So it's kind of fun for that aspect.
I also think for like the older people who are married, obviously I'm not, but give them an excuse to tell the wife to get out of the house and go fishing.
I love Fisher just giving some good marital advice at the knowledgeable age of 15. That's awesome. So I guess this is a two-part question for both of you. So Jason, over the course of your musky career, have you fished in any tournaments? And then Fisher, do you plan on doing any more competitive musky fishing as you get older?
In 2001, Brian Schaefer, who you might know, and I were competitive we're out of PMTT team together. And that's when we had to go fish in Illinois and stuff back then. We did okay. We just both of us at the time just didn't like giving up all our vacation time and doing all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you got to have a different mentality to fish the PMTT. It isn't always that you're the best fisherman, but if you can have a good schedule and can afford to do the travel and everything like that, I mean, you kind of got to be unique in your own. Besides being a good fisherman or whatever, it's kind of different, and I enjoyed it. I know we placed pretty high on Leech one time, Brian and I did, but I don't know, Fisher. We've had people mention in our videos, you should fish the PMTT, and I'm like, it's for both of us to do it, and it would be a stretch. So, but
Not saying I think we could catch some muskies, but I don't know. I mean, we have a First Wisconsin Muskies Inc. chapter here in Chippewa Falls, and there's they run a fundraising tournament to stock muskies, and we fish that every year basically, and it's pretty fun. Otherwise, I would like to fish a couple more tournaments around the state, and I do a lot of bass fishing too. If it's bad weather for muskies, I'm most likely bass fishing. I'm just catching. I catch fish. I trout fish. I do everything. I've done a couple of bass tournaments, and that's fun too. And you just can't beat anything when you're out in the water. It's better than school.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but as like a competitive athlete, I think that's where a little bit where Gus and I, being able to fish in a competitive environment was like really fun for us. Some people it's not their thing, and I totally get it. Like it definitely adds a different element to just going out and fishing, because we love that too. Like it's not like just because we're not competing, like we enjoy it just as much. It's not like it's any different. But I think when you're like you're a competitive wrestler on the varsity team, like that does transfer a little bit over, where it's like, man, I'm pretty good at this musky thing too. Like I kind of want to see how I stack up against other people, and it's fun. I enjoy it. I know Gus does, and people we fish with, it's a good time.
Doesn't work for everybody. It's I mean, there's a lot of anglers that have done it for a little bit and then tried or come back to it on that circuit. And I don't have really nothing against it, besides the time and away from the family and
Right.
But yeah, it's good. But
yeah, definitely a tough thing. I mean, it definitely takes us to kind of some trophy bodies of water, here and there, but it's going out there and needing to fish on a Saturday and a Sunday. And if it's a busy lake, sometimes it gets a little rough. Sometimes you're like, well, if I was going to come fish here, it probably wouldn't be on a Saturday
Yeah,
at
that's the way I
10
kind of think
a.m.
about it. I'd love to fish tournaments. It's fun, but if I'm gonna go to a big body of water that I've always wanted to fish, I don't want to fish in a tournament. I want to be one of the only musky boats out there and have my best shot at getting a mega giant.
It's hard to end at 4. I'll tell you that. I mean, that is, and as somebody, from my perspective, who doesn't fish for a living, I have a normal job that I work Monday through Friday, and like I have to take time off and whatever. And so like it definitely, I know where you're coming from, Jason, where it's like you only get so much time to allocate towards musky fishing when you're forced into fishing a certain body of water at a certain time. It does like, it's a little bit of a pull and tug. Like, man, we could plan a trip up to Lake of the Woods or go to Leech or go wherever. And it's like, now we're, not to shit on Madison a few weeks ago, but it's like, now we're fishing in, Madison and then early June, and there's not a single fish in this damn lake that's doing anything. That's like, so you just get stuck with that sometimes. And that's just, I think that probably would be a reason why I think it turns some, and it, we're early on in this. It certainly could wear on us over time, but yeah.
Not for everyone, that's the neat thing, but we like the fundraising because we like to give back. And so, $70 a head fundraising tournament with Muskies Inc., where it doesn't matter how you do, the somebody's benefit in the long run. I got for the second time last year, I won our tournament with 200 and some anglers here.
That was a great net, man. That
you were great.
Days.
You got to net all my fish. So
awesome. Yeah. Would you guys ever do that National Muskie Championship up in, I guess it's Vilas Oneida County kind of area? I don't know if you guys heard, it's at the end of August. It's kind of a charitable give back type tournament. There's no cash prize or anything, but you get to fish 3 days and you pick your.
Actually, I think we talked about that yesterday.
Actually talked about that one yesterday. It kind of came up, and yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that that we can do now, and they become nice little filming projects and warp things into it and just have fun. And that's what it's all about. Even the filming, all the filming and stuff we do, just having fun. I mean,
I know a lot of times when we're filming with, well, let's say, I'm just gonna pick a guy, say Brian Klein or something. A lot of stuff we have to cut out because we're just having fun, talking, having a blast.
Yeah, we all know that too well with running GoPros, since we have a few fish were caught during some interesting conversations.
Yeah, sometimes that's probably what, if we're having that interesting conversation, would you have caught that fish? You never know.
Probably not.
Not very often does a fit. Yeah, not right. Not very often. I feel like I could look back at footage and be wrong here, but I feel like when somebody hooks up, it's when somebody is blabbing away. It's not just like dead quiet and all of a sudden, oh, got one. I mean, sometimes if
it wants to be dead quiet.
Right.
No.
Yeah, we had one on film, and I remember one time, and it was just a beautiful head shake, and I had the hardest time. Fisher, what are we gonna do? I mean, him and I do the editing kind of together and play. I do a lot of the tough editing, and it was just when it ate and head shook right away, and you can hear me just say Rich Reinhardt. It's like we were talking about Rich at the time. It was just, he called us. He was on the phone.
He was on the phone, and he was he was talking about, I can't even remember what he was talking about, but you were like, oh, Rich Fisher's got one, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, we've had a few instances. I mean, we had that one I know we've talked about on the podcast, but our buddy Brian, who's unfortunately not with us here for this interview tonight because he's traveling, he was talking some shit about somebody in jest, like total just like joking around, but like something about like he's like, oh yeah, like I'll beat his ass, and literally my buddy sets the hook, and we're like, well, we can't use that footage. We're like, yeah, that probably didn't go over too well if we put that one out on the YouTubes, but it happens. Like you said, that fish doesn't eat probably if we're not saying some dumb stuff. So
we'll be fishing with our good buddy Matt Ross, and I'll be like, you want the smoke mat? You really want this? And then they'll set the hook, and I'm like, oh.
You're just jawing in the front of the boat, and
That would be
Oh,
great
that's
commentary. That's what you got to start putting in there.
so you guys obviously fish in league. You're shooting all these videos. What else is on the docket for this year? I know, Jason, you're on the path to recovery, so obviously we wish you well and everything with that. But are you guys doing any sort of trips this year, or is it kind of just a lay low recovery year a little bit?
I mean, we'll be in Green Bay a couple times.
Minnesota.
And
Yep.
I think we're talking about doing another Minnesota trip. So
Okay.
actually, otherwise we've already done our trips this year.
With his age, it makes it kind of a creative way that we got to film. You got to think about it. He's only available from June 1st to September 1st because he's still in school.
Right.
So a lot of our,
Besides
if we're going to
weekends.
schedule somebody with like Brian Klein or Brian, we do maybe 4 or 5 guys a year that we try to do a fun trip together with and help them. And if we try to schedule something, it's got to be in that window. That's all we got.
Sure.
Otherwise, then a lot of our videos are all just like everybody else out there, Saturday and Sunday.
All weekends. And if once it gets late November, if we want to go down to Iowa or something, I can't. I got wrestling tournaments on the weekends.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Right. I mean, yeah, that's just the reality of it. I mean, do you guys get up to northern Wisconsin much? I mean, obviously, if you're fishing with Brian Schaefer, you're up
Yep.
our way a little bit more.
Yeah, we were up there not too long ago, just filmed one with Taylor Flannery. Yeah. And Fisher smoked one on a Deusa.
oh, that's it. Same color, but just a different because this one's caught too many fish. I kind of hang it on the wall of shame now.
I'm excited to buy that.
Wall of greatness.
And it's going to be funny for the people listening to this. I mean, it's just a bad podcast, and here well, if they watch your video, they'll know what color it is, I guess. But obviously, we're just talking about it; no one can see it. But yeah, for those that are listening to this that have not seen that Deucey yet, you're gonna probably want to buy it. It looks really good.
It's on film. That video, we've had videos this summer, or like when we first got this bait, we fished with Vince, and our first impressions of the bait, we caught 6.
Oh my God. Oh, I remember that video. That was incredible. You guys bagged some big ones too. I do remember that. All on, it was just mid deuces, right? You didn't, or were you using
Same color. That was the
same thing.
Vince came up to fish with us, and we've been talking for about a month and a half to try to. This is how we kind of want it: the right gold speck, the right black bars, kind of an orange around a gill area. We all kind of wanted that, and he comes up and, what do you think of this? And yeah, we put him in the bag. So.
Yeah, that's just perfect timing there. So let's I guess let's dive into maybe some rubber baits, because we've kind of talked about it a bunch, and I know you've talked about deuces a bunch. Are there any other ones that you really like to throw?
Mag dogs,
pounders. I dabble in a couple of pounders.
Nice. Yeah, pounders are great. They're tough to throw, but they kind of pull through the water not too bad.
Obviously tubes too.
Nice. Yeah, that's do you mess around with trailer blades at all on the back of tubes, or do you kind of
Not really, no.
Just having them hop around?
I rip it pretty hard.
He's a hard ripper. And kid can, man, I can't think of anybody that can rip a big hard. But he doesn't.
I get bit.
He's got a young back, and
well, sometimes it's the way to get it done is to just have just that sheer movement of the bait, especially rubber baits. I feel like that's why they're just so good. They stay down, and you can rip them really fast, and they just get all those reaction strikes. With the tubes, do you like the nose rigged ones, or the mid depths, or the shallow?
Mid. Oh, this mid 10 inches.
With yeah, those ones run really true. I've seen sometimes the little ninjas are a little squirrely, a little tough to tune, but the 10s you can.
Smaller ones too, though.
With the rod you like using for ripping rubber.
I could I could dabble in a little bit of that actually.
For sure. Let's hear it.
Moab.
Moab or the Shock and Awe, 9 foot, both of them.
Do you use the
That's-
9.6 or 10 footer at all for ripping rubber? Or do you think that's too much?
I just think you're gonna tire yourself out moving that big of a rod for that long.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. I mean, I definitely like popping tubes on even like an 8.6 extra heavy of
yeah.
some kind, or especially
That's what
tubes.
I think I was using an 8.6, 2 years ago? I was still using 8.6
Yeah.
for ripping rubber.
Yeah. I've
It's
still really liked using that.
It's so weird to hear him say that stuff, and I can look back at like in 1993, 1994, 95. It's like, oh my God, Smith, you're using an 8-foot rod. What are you doing? You're only 5'6". You can't use an 8-foot rod. I mean, I heard all the objections in the world.
Right.
So
really, the trend has really changed, obviously.
yeah.
Oh, for
Well, yeah,
sure.
you've seen it go on. I mean, you talked about fishing the heyday of Pewaukee. What can you attribute to it? Like, why do you think it was the heyday rather than like where it's at now? I mean, what do you think was
It was 8
different?
fish per acre back then.
8
It was
per acre?
8 fish per acre. I mean, I was going out there guiding 125, 130 muskies a year.
Oh my gosh.
And that was part-time guiding. I had a full-time job, and we were just smoking fish. I'd catch them on figure eights, showing customers how to do figure eights to start the day. You wouldn't even make a cast. There's that many fish in there.
That's unbelievable.
So this is something we've talked about on this podcast, and kind of it like almost hurts to talk about a little bit because like we really haven't lived through any quote unquote heydays of any bodies of water, right? Like it's something as our, I guess, I mean, I'm not going to say that we're in the same generation. I'm also kind of a little fragile on my age right now, just turning 30, sensitive subject.
Thought it was
but
29.
Wait
like,
till
yeah,
you
well,
sure.
it turning 29. I turned 29 for the second time this year. So, but like you talk about these heydays. I mean, is it a stocking thing? Is it a pressure thing? Is it what do you think you can attribute to like if you could manufacture another heyday somewhere? Do you think it's just stocking and low pressure? Like, is it the combination of both, or is it one more than the other? What's your thoughts on that?
Obviously, stocking. You've seen a lot of it was a higher in the past. Even when I moved up here in 2003, caught a pile of fish out of Wissota, but that was a batch of fish that came from stocking 7,500 like 10 years prior. So when they were stocking way high,
all those fish were like 38 by then. So
yeah.
I'm totally ignorant on this. I mean, was there more money to go around for muskie stocking back then, or was it just more of a priority?
Be honest with you, things started to change. Actually, one of the last few days of the Walker administration when he went into the walleye initiative, and that, which we thought I like Scott Walker. He was a good governor, but that hurt muskie fishing because he implemented the walleye initiative, and we went from having, say, like in Spooner, Wisconsin, for stocking ponds, like from having 6, 7 stocking ponds down to 2. So, because now they're raising more walleyes. And that happened in Woodruff too, and a lot of things. So, stocking in the state went down on muskies right about then. And now you're really seeing, as you're getting into the 10, 11, 12 years of that progression, you're seeing the consequences of it. And we're pretty involved. Our first Wisconsin chapter of Muskies Inc. here in Chippewa Falls. We had to go back and bring quotas back on lakes and spent $37,000 to try to help even just get some more muskies in, because we had lakes that they used to stick 1,000 muskies every other year in. Now they stick 50.
I mean, that's a, like, if you think about that in the business world, I mean, that's an astronomical drop off of and allocation of resources. Like that's not just like a, hey, we're cutting the budget a little bit. I mean, that's going from flourishing to like desolate. I mean, you're talking 1,000 every other year to 50. That's like, I mean, you can't even. I mean, like that. That's crazy drop off.
You know, you look at you look up a stocking report and just shake your head when you see dairyland flowage 37 stocked. Like, really?
37? Just picking a couple off the dock in there and just be like, all right, go and make it. I hope.
Yeah.
So we buying 300 or 400 more to try to supplement it. Like I said, but you know, and to get the fish that we're stocking, kudos to a guy like Josh Rapska, who you might know, has been pretty implemented. Come up with a lot of this, but our muskies are Chippewa River strain. They come out of like Cudarea grindstone, okay, and then they go to the Spooner hatchery and get hatched. So then the 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch fry, right? Then they give them to us, and then because there's no more ponds to stick them into, because there's only 2 ponds left at Spooner, we buy the pond space at the Minnesota Muskie Farm in Alexandria, Minnesota. So our fish are raised in separate ponds over there because they got them. Then they feed them, and then we buy them back for $16, $17 a fish.
Jeez,
that's expensive. I feel like not long ago people were talking about $10 a fish. I didn't know it was that much more expensive.
Money. Well, obviously, you know, feed is expensive. So, but that's how we're getting muskies nowadays and doing our best to help sustain some of our lakes that used to be pretty high. You know, I mean, like I said, Wasota's on an annual basis. It used to be 7,500 that you know, when I first moved here. Now 900,000 tops.
That's a big lake. I've never been on it, but I've looked at the maps out there. That's not a small one.
And it's got, you know, with a dam, they actually expect most of the fish, or some of the percentage of the fish, to go down river too. So that's just all part of the equation.
You'd think if they put that in their head, they'd stock more.
But I like the DNR, but you know, we got to work with what elements we got to work with, and you know, like I said, the walleye initiative kind of put a dent in it throughout the state, I think.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we can still catch them, so
true.
It's better than nothing.
Yep. Yeah. Do you think I mean, of course, it's a great idea to join Muskies Inc. if you haven't already, but do you think doing more chapter tournaments like you were just talking about, maybe in all these areas, do you think that's a good maybe initiative to jump that up in the state of Wisconsin?
I mean, you're going to meet new people. You're going to get more connections, obviously, and
the money goes to good use.
Yeah, you're going to.
We're a 401c. I mean, we got to spend the money and keep it all, you know. We got, you know, we're building brush piles, tree drops into lakes, you know, other things that we do even to help other species in the area. But stocking fish is a goal right now. Spending $37,000, we can only do it like every other year. You know, that's a lot of money to raise in a club of, you know, 250 people like in our area. I'm very happy to be a member, and I was a member of the Milwaukee chapter Muskies Inc. when I used to live down there, and you know, contributing back to that club, and everything. It's a good organization, but
I mean, you're contributing to these clubs, and our clubs are, at least our club, we have a youth outing, getting kids out muskie fishing, and in our tournament, all the kids get free baits. Everybody gets a free bait. Who doesn't want a bait?
Who doesn't love free baits?
But getting back to times that you know, you run into little niches of just muskies just being in a crazy time, or like what you're saying. I got to, of course, when I moved up here in 2003, I got to go over to Mille Lacs when it was in its heyday. And did we catch muskies, and it was stupid. Nothing
Yeah.
but big muskies, and absolutely lots of them. And that was a heyday that from 2003 to about 2012 was amazing, catching giants. So,
Do you think, in your opinion, do you think we could ever have another quote unquote heyday at a particular body of water?
in Minnesota, it seems like new introduction, like it helped. It seemed like a lot of lakes in Minnesota when they started introducing them in 1989 statewide. You once you got like 10 or 12 years into that new introduction, those fish were eating well. They were large and basically stupid. They ate baits really well, and musky fishermen like stupid muskies.
Yeah, I mean that definitely is a part of the equation here, right? Like, there's definitely days where you're on fish or you're seeing them on your electronics or whatever, but they're just not opening up their mouths. So stupid muskies are a nice bonus. But I think a little bit of this is more just like curiosity, because as this podcast platform continues to grow and whatnot, like we want to find ways to give back, I guess, per se. And I think a lot of people, like, at least for me, as somebody who's been a part of the sport for a long time, but like, it's hard to know, like, if you're going to donate or put funds forward to grow the sport of musky fishing, that they're going to the right places and the dollars are being used for the right things. Right. And so it's like, where can people feel comfortable, like actually opening up their pocketbook and saying, okay, here's some money. Do I know that that's going to translate directly to more muskies in the lakes that I fish? And I think that's where people get a little stonewalled with like helping or pushing, helping out.
You just said the magic word, helping out. We've tried adopting muskies and all that kind of stuff where we put a tag on them and you see how your muskie goes for, buy $50 muskie or whatever. Those projects were okay, but they never were super big generating money. What we really need is people that are more active, that get involved in the boards of these clubs, that want to work on fundraisers and everything, and the projects, and that's
people who have ideas.
And it can be anyone. And when I first moved here, I actually started the league to get to know more club members. We had like 200 some club members. And we're like wanting to find out where people's strengths were, and because the 10 board members couldn't do it all. And I said, well, let's just see what we got out there. Pretty soon we run into a guy who works for a printer, and another guy works for this company, because we just invited all the members just to hop in our boat, and we started like a Wednesday night league to get to know club members, and we generated a lot of more. People just need to be asked, hey, we could really use your help, and I think that's a lot of it, and that's where we found a lot of success.
And I think it's a great point, because it's like, I think there would be more people willing to help, because if you think about musky fishing, it's not a cheap sport. I mean, you're buying an expensive boat, you're putting in really expensive electronics, you're buying expensive gear, expensive equipment, expensive baits, everything. There's probably a certain percentage of that amount of money that if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to buy a full boat, a full rig of electronics, a full arsenal of rods, reels, baits, there's probably a percentage of that you'd say, well, it makes sense to probably put some of that to stocking these lakes so I can actually go out and use this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and so that in my head is like, okay, well, if that's the case, then if there was a clear idea on, okay, how can you get these people to actually, like I said, give money back to an area where they feel confident that their money's actually being used, I think you could have more success with it. Cause like, when we were down in Madison, like they were pretty, I guess, transparent with us before the tournament. They're like, there's probably the least amount of fish in these lakes than we've had since we can remember. You know what I mean? And
Fisher even got to remember that night trip you did with Lee and Robbie down there.
Oh yeah. And when the fish stack up in the bay in August and you can all catch them at night, yeah,
He was down, it was one of those weird ones where, Robbie texted me and said, "Can I steal Fisher?" And I'm like, "Go ahead." And I don't know what you were like. You were like 12 and he swung in our driveway, grabbed Fisher, ran down to Madison, and my wife and I are sleeping. All of a sudden my text goes off 1:30 in the morning. I just struck a 41. I just, it's all this kind of stuff, and it's like, but yeah, the population back then was awesome in Madison, and it nosedived. And I think if you can't maintain things, you always see it in like 8 to 10 years. It really,
And that it's hard on the flip side too, right? If you're gonna put all this money in, you're not gonna really reap the benefits for another decade either. You know what I mean? Like, you stock the absolute shit out of Lake X, you're not gonna really know it until another 10 years goes by that you're actually, catching these fully grown muskies. So it's tough. I don't know, but I'm glad we're talking about it because it's been something that's certainly been on my mind after going through some hardships to start the year on my end. I'm like, man, it'd be a lot better if there's just more freaking muskies.
I'm sure, there's a lot of lakes that natural reproduction works pretty good. I'm not a big fan of the highway 10 corridors where it locks up in the spring. I think there's some lakes that are south of Highway 8 that can be opened up because they are not natural reproduction lakes, but some are. And I think the biologists would know which ones they are, which they kind of do with their net pulling and electroshocking, that could open up a little bit more opportunity. But a lot of north of 70, north of 8, those fish up there, a lot of natural reproduction, which is great, So.
All right. Well, let's not end the podcast tonight on any sort of doom and gloom with stocking stuff. I want to know, in this podcast, obviously we're Wisconsin based. I want to hear about some big Wisconsin fish stories. So is there any inland Wisconsin fish that you guys have either caught, saw, haunts you, what have you? I mean, I want to hear about some big inland Wisconsin fish.
I know we both have stories. I'll start. Last year, so recent. Yep, last year, my biggest fish last year was an inland Wisconsin 49-incher.
That's a biggie.
Beautiful fish, and we were fishing a spot where sometimes there'll be a whole bunch of kind of mixed range, but there won't be a big one. We were fishing it, and I'm like, why can't I move a fish? We got to the peak of the spot, and finally I seen one wake behind my topwater and just stop. And I was like, that looked like a big wake. We looped around to the backside, kind of where he was, and I'm like, topwater's not doing it. I have a different color, but a glider. I grabbed a musky water glider, and I was twitching it really fast, like twitch, pause, like that speed. And I think I casted kind of right exactly where he was, and I think I made 5 or 6 twitches, and I set the hook. And I'm like, I was using a 710 tactile strike, so a smaller rod, and I'm like, this is big. Fighting him next to the boat, I was thumbing him. He was trying to dog. It wasn't that deep, but still, he was fighting. That was probably one of the most exciting fights that I've had. And we got him in the net, and we thought 46. Pulled him out of the net. He just kept going, and I'm like, what the heck? Put him on the board, pinched the tail, 49. That was just.
It was a cool. We had video of that.
Really pretty fish.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's funny is I've fished Wisconsin, like I said, it's like 91 since then. In all my years, I got a 50 and I got a 51.5. That's the top 2 that I've caught in all those years in Wisconsin. In Minnesota and with Canada, and there's a lot more 50s. But I just, some of it has to do with genetics in Wisconsin a little bit, but we enjoy them all. and it don't matter. And if you get to the point where you don't enjoy to catch a 34-incher anymore, you should hang up your stuff. I mean, it's fishing. Some days, and we'll take a video of a fish, and it's like, we earned that 34-incher today. It is what it is.
I think probably where we start to think, wow, that's a dandy fish. I think probably 43, 44 and up, because they start to get shoulders. And in Wisconsin, that fish is not young. You think about a 44, the age of a Wisconsin 44-incher, it's going to be 47, 48 in Minnesota. So that's
big. Yeah.
Fish is wise. Not only bigger, but they get wise as they get older.
Yeah. Fisher's 49 had a pit tag in it, and the DNR had it in the net before as a 44 or 45. We knew it when he caught it last year. He was 19 years old.
Wow,
19.
That's crazy. That fish has been swimming around in that body of water for 19 years.
Longer than I've been alive.
He's older than you. Not a lot of people that can say they caught a 49-incher that's older than them.
I hope
really
that fish is still out there.
Yeah,
if we run into that fish again,
never know.
I mean, she was healthy, swam off great, everything. It was just couldn't beat it.
We love it. That's one thing our club does too, is we have a tagging study. We stick pit tags in, working with the Wisconsin DNR biologists locally, and we got to measure. Some people say in our videos, it's like, why are you measuring that 37-incher? Well, we have to measure them to the nearest quarter inch, because that's part of the tagging study. We have to turn in a report every time we scan a number on a fish. Or if we get a fish that doesn't have a pit tag, we put a new one in, and then you have to start the date that way. So we have tags that the DNR lets us put them in. It's about 10 or 12 of us that got scientific angler permits to do that. And it becomes a very interesting study. And some, bunk boards we found really have not, people, as long as you know what you're doing and you put a fish on a bunk board and put it back in the water real quickly, it doesn't seem to hurt them, because we're catching these fish multiple times over and over.
Oh, yeah. There's one fish that I could tell you he's always at the same spot, and we know 5 times he's been caught. I've caught him twice.
Sounds like a good league fish to go after.
Yeah.
If you're in need of one.
At the end of the day, too, like if you're bumping fish and you're putting it out on your YouTube channel, it's a good way for people that maybe are not as that don't musky fish as much to like watch somebody handle a fish and put it on a bump board. It's a good educational tool.
Our fish, when we get them in the boat, bump them, pinch the tail. If it's not tagged, throw a tag in, which takes 3 seconds. Take one quick picture, put them back in the water, and then we can talk to the camera.
We don't put them back in the net. We just let them go. I mean, if you got everything prepared, we'll scan the fish in the net so we know we need to get a new tag in it or do something like that. So we have everything ready. And if you have everything ready, the camera ready, or you only need 2 or 3 quick photos. You can do this in 15 seconds or less if you really know what you're doing. And
that's not going to harm the fish at all.
So.
No.
And we caught hooks. I literally right here, nipbacks, pliers, everything we need is right here. As soon as if the fish is a little bit higher in the net, I don't care. Hooks are replaceable. We'll cut those hooks and they'll be free to swim.
Oh yeah, couldn't agree more.
That's it right there, folks. I mean, yeah, if you guys want to learn how to handle a muskie, you know what channel to go to right now. So I'll check it out. And I guess I'll leave you with one last muskie question, then I'll have one more after that. I don't know how much more Gus has, but with the cool Medusa you guys were showing, obviously that one's been a staple this year, but any other baits you guys are excited about this year that you've been throwing or maybe excited to throw as the season progresses here?
That's a That's actually a good question.
Um,
Like new baits or just any baits in general?
Yeah, I
Last
mean, if they worked
year-
last year or whatever.
8-inch Poseidon coming about midway through the year last year. We had a lot of fun with the 8-inch Poseidon. That size seems to be a real key there.
I thought I had one right
You know,
there. Never mind.
we're such topwater freaks that we got because we're more Chippewa or river based over here. I think dark water really tends to make topwater fishing great again. You could say, you know,
Make top
That's
waters
awesome.
great again.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you guys definitely do that. I saw that you have that full-on topwater tackle box. I mean, you have as many topwaters as I do,
You
maybe
guys are sitting right on
bucktails.
the top water box right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
What
good stuff.
so I guess sticking to the topwater subject, another question here. What is one topwater bait that you, Fisher, have had success on since you're younger to this game that's just kind of a one-off top, like a very odd topwater that's a little maybe more old school or non-typical?
Topper stopper. That's
Topper stopper. What's that one again? I don't know if is it like a
old-
buzz?
Stopper. It's a very unique bait that fast or slow. It's got a lot of keys, and even I've caught in one tournaments in October or late mid September on it many times. It's it's and you feel pull one out. Let's grab one off our wall of shame. But are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely do now. It's got the double blades.
Yep, but they come with these Delta aluminum blades, and they don't make a lot of noise out of the get-go. The key to them is you kind of bend the tabs in on the Delta blades, and they're aluminum. And I like to do is I stick them in a vise, and put a high-speed fan blowing on the blades, and let them run for 24 hours. And you increase the hole of the Delta blade about double, and then now it's not just running true, it's wobbling.
It gives it a squeak.
And that's where you get your squeak. So you're bringing it in late September, and it's as it's plopping slightly, and you bring it in as slow as you can watch the blades turn. And I've caught so many big fish doing that in September.
That's a really good tip right there. Do you do the fan trick with any others?
A 5-4-1 reel.
Not really, no.
Really real. I mean, slower than you'd work a hog wobbler.
Break out the Abu round reels.
Yep, exactly.
Sure you're not overdoing it.
The 300 PC fun is a 5-4-1. It works really good. There's one version of that, and it's a great pattern. And believe it or not, I actually learned that from my oldest daughter. I'd take her out musky fishing, and she didn't want to turn the handle that much, and pretty soon it doesn't take a rocket scientist for me to figure out why she got 4 follows and I haven't even seen one. Because she's bringing it in so slow that and then you start incorporating that speed. It's like go speed, sound. It's huge. People get so, and some baits right now, what was good 5-6 years ago, loud pop. These fish are shying off to that stuff now. There's times when they want them quieter, and anglers need to adjust to that.
For sure. If you're fishing really slow with the topwater, what's a good complementary bait? Because I know another thing is maybe that other angler is sitting there, casting a bucktail, and they're like 10 casts into a spot where somebody has 3 with the topwater, and they're probably just like, all right, come on, let's go. Maybe like a
glider, or like a diving rise bait, maybe.
Yeah.
Perfect. Or even like a slow crawl on a swim bait. That could work too.
Suics are always a good plus. Catch a lot of fish on suics during the year, you know that.
Yeah, we love them over here. And any of the suics, honestly, I've I still always love the 10-inch weighted, but there's
Yep.
I love dancing around a little 9-inch unweighted and some really shallow stuff.
I'm looking at our pedestal box here, and I see probably 14 suics with teeth marks on them, all in there.
You don't go to Lake Woods unless you got a Fire Tiger 10-inch weighted wood.
Yeah.
And then you just stick a split ring in the front because you're gonna drive that front screw eye into the freaking wood by the end of the trip.
Rocks and wood, yeah.
Man, a lot of good little nuggets here. All right. Well, I guess last question for me, Fisher. How's the team looking this year? How are we feeling? How's the wrestling team looking? Is the blonde hair? You think that's going to add to the win record this year? Or what's going on?
I think it's looking pretty good. We got some good freshmen coming up, and I bumped up a couple of weight classes, so I put on some muscle. And
he's not a 106-pounder anymore.
Nope. Walking around about 125, 126. So I don't know where I'll end up, but I think our team is gonna be pretty good this year.
Glad to hear it. All right. Well, before you guys sign off, then, as far as gear you guys use, where people can find your YouTube channel, lay it all on us.
Any shout outs?
Any shout outs?
Obviously, we talked about PC Fun Reels, and you guys, the viewers, or not viewers, listeners can I'm so used to saying viewers, but they can get it 20% off using code Smith20 on PCFun.com, and obviously Chaos Tackle, Assault Stick Rods, and Finn's Braid we also use, and yeah.
We got some nice sponsors in there. They're really good to work with, and they make good quality products, from everything from wreck and rack boxes to the
Blackfish clothing
and things that make you comfortable when you're out there, and good rain gear. And in the wintertime, we partnered with Clam years ago, and it used to be thinking this Clam is just for ice fishing gear. I tell you, putting on the full Clam parkas in mid-November is not a bad thing either. When we're in the boat, we do a lot of that. So
usually staying dry too, so that's always nice.
So
yeah, I'm always using the ice fishing moon boots in November. It's hard to use the trolling motor pedal, I gotta say, with the with those boots, but it comes into handy for sure. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming on tonight and chatting muskies. This was a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have to get you on again. There's a lot of nuggets I think we could have gone down, and I'm glad we covered a good wide range tonight.
We can also get on the water sometime too. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to share the boat and show you guys around. I know you've been up to this area a few times, but show you some hopefully new waters and catch some muskies together. That'd be awesome.
Sweet. Thank you.
And for those that are listening that want to go run and watch you guys on YouTube, where can they find you?
Smith Fishing Outdoors. Just click the little search thing, search it up, and
yeah.
And hit the subscribe button.
Oh yeah.
I think we got like 4,100 subscribers, and we're a growing channel. And it's we one thing I think we just tend to do when we talk about having fun on the water, but we always add tidbits, always add instruction, and what somebody, when they're gonna spend 15 minutes watching our video, they're gonna have fun and they're gonna learn something.
They're gonna have fun. They're gonna learn something, and we also have like we split the videos up in a playlist. If you actually click on the channel, and there's informational. So,
well, that's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's a cool little tidbit there. Yeah, you even got a trout fishing section with only one video. Got to step up the trout game there.
What's funny is you talk about the muskie market is so small in the grand scheme of things. Every year we shoot a salmon video, and our best salmon video from was 3-4 years ago with Joe Junion from out in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. And people love that video, and it's like 23Ks watching it. And I wish we could get muskie videos to do that, but
we'll get there. We'll get there.
I think in grand scheme of thing, I think there's only really 100,000 musky anglers in the world.
Right. Thank you guys very much for taking the time tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Thanks for making the musky content as somebody who consumes probably way too much of it. I appreciate it. It's always fun to watch. So, but yeah, appreciate you guys hopping on tonight. It was a blast.
Yep. Thanks.
Welcome back to Taps and Tackle. We're
Nope.
a podcast.
Nope.
Muskie's on tap.
Oh, sorry.
We'll put that in the end
That's all right.
credits.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. All right. Take two. Take two.
Well, you're the king of one takes, I always say. Go ahead, bud.